Napoleon once controlled an empire of over 40 million people. Now he was utterly powerless.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're counting down our picks for 10 figures from throughout history who climbed the proverbial mountaintop only to fall in the most spectacular fashion.
The seemingly unremarkable man testifying at a war crimes tribunal in Tokyo is in fact no ordinary person.
Number 10. Maximilien Robespierre. Robespierre was a self-styled freedom fighter, pushing for voting rights and the abolition of slavery. He thought himself an incorruptible noble figure, and at one point that may have even been true.
One man would rise to inspire the nation, to cast aside a reluctant king and a hated queen.
Today he's remembered for little else beyond the guillotine. A key figure in the French Revolution, Robespierre rose to power championing liberty, equality, and fraternity. But once he obtained power, he unleashed the reign of terror, overseeing mass executions on an ungodly scale.
The radical Jacobins, believing the young revolution is in danger of being sabotaged by traitors, are steering the revolution with more and more violent means.
One such unfortunate was the famously corrupt libertine queen Marie Antoinette, herself thrown down from a lofty, haughty perch. By the end, even Robespierre's allies feared him. Branded a tyrant, he was arrested and executed without trial by the very machine he had once used to reshape France.
What they understood by terror was striking terror into the hearts of the enemies of the Republic, so that they would be either scared straight, as it were, or arrested and disposed of.
Number 9. Field Marshal Philippe Pétain. As World War I took off, Colonel Pétain could have retired. Instead, he continued his career, rising to general. At Verdun, he helped the French find victory from the jaws of a 9-month slog.
The defense-minded Pétain had been ignored before the war. Afterward, he was hailed as a prophet.
He was France's greatest hero. A few decades later, his reputation exploded. When the Nazis conquered France, they installed Pétain as head of the Vichy government.
Placed its trust in Pétain. Most French citizens, reeling from their defeat, believed the armistice was a wise or at least a necessary choice. But what Pétain did next was neither wise nor necessary.
As the chief French collaborator, he betrayed his own people. After the war, he was convicted of treason and sentenced to death. Charles de Gaulle intervened, reducing the sentence to life in prison. Pétain died there in 1951.
Imprisoned on an island off the coast of France, Pétain died unrepentant in 1951 at the age of 95.
Number 8. Louis Strauss. He almost single-handedly shaped the atomic age before being buried by it. Louis Strauss was a powerful figure in American science and politics.
The senator from Wyoming.
Admiral Strauss, I'm interested in your relationship with Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer. You met him in 1947?
Correct.
He was chair of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission, playing a key role in the development of nuclear weapons. But he's also infamous for his behind-the-scenes role in the downfall of J. Robert Oppenheimer. After the war, Lewis accused Oppenheimer of being a national security risk.
Can't give Oppenheimer a platform. Can't martyr him. We need a systematic destruction of Oppenheimer's credibility so he can never again speak on matters of national security.
Strauss's influence began to unravel when he was nominated as Secretary of Commerce in 1958. The Senate hearings were brutal. All of his grudges and behind-the-scenes manipulations were exposed on the floor of the U.S. Senate.
Oppenheimer made mincemeat out of Strauss's position on the shipments of isotopes to Norway, and Strauss never forgave him.
His nomination was rejected publicly and humiliatingly. In trying to destroy Oppenheimer, he doomed himself in the eyes of history. Number 7. Aung San Suu Kyi. Once celebrated as a global icon of democracy, Aung San Suu Kyi was a darling among human rights activists the world over.
You've become quite an extraordinary icon of hope. Is that a burden?
Yes, if people base their hopes on you, then of course it's a responsibility.
She was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1991 for her nonviolent resistance against Myanmar's military dictatorship. After spending years under house arrest, she was finally elected to power. Her global reputation fell to pieces once she was in office.
For years, she's denied that Myanmar has been persecuting the Rohingya.
I don't think there's ethnic cleansing going on. I think ethnic cleansing is too strong an expression to use for what's happening.
Critics accused her of doing little to stop the military's violent persecution of the Rohingya minority. Some critics even accused her of defending her military's actions, which the UN has called a possible genocide. Her international support collapsed almost overnight. In a cruel twist of fate, Suu Kyi was eventually overthrown by the same military she once opposed. She remains in custody today.
The Nobel laureate's been in jail since she was ousted in a coup in 2021.
Number 6, Aaron Burr. Aaron Burr is mostly remembered for shooting Alexander Hamilton. That gunshot, though, was just the starting pistol on the downfall of the Vice President of the United States.
Hamilton gambled on the fact that Burr would not shoot to kill. Hamilton knew that if Burr did shoot to kill, that Burr would be branded as a murderer and it would ruin his career.
After his term as Jefferson's VP, Burr headed west and cooked up a scheme somewhere between a land grab and a full-blown rebellion. The details are murky, but he was accused of trying to raise an army, take land from Spain, and maybe even carve out his own little country. He was arrested and tried for treason, barely escaping conviction. The scandal tanked his reputation. His name became synonymous with betrayal. In American history, Burr is second only to Benedict Arnold, the Revolutionary War general who literally switched sides.
Before them are captured documents that reveal the most notorious act of treason in American history. A plot to sell out West Point in upstate New York, America's most important fort, to the British. Stunningly, the plot was hatched by West Point's commander and the war's greatest hero, General Benedict Arnold.
Number 5, Richard Nixon. He won the presidency in a landslide, one of the most one-sided in U.S. history.
He was one of America's most successful presidents on the international stage, lauded as a world statesman who thawed the Cold War. He was re-elected in one of the biggest landslides in American history, capturing 49 out of 50 states.
But Richard Nixon's paranoia and deep-seated insecurity led him to overreach. And to record the whole thing, Nixon had a long, complicated political career, rising from modest beginnings to the highest office in the land. But his legacy was sealed by Watergate, a political scandal involving a break-in at Democratic headquarters and a sweeping cover-up.
We have a mystery story out of Washington. 5 people have been arrested and charged with breaking into the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee in the middle of the night.
As evidence mounted, the Senate uncovered the existence of secret White House tapes. When the Supreme Court granted access to the Justice Department, Nixon's presidency unraveled. Facing near certain impeachment, he became the first U.S. president to resign. Once seen as a political mastermind, Nixon's name became synonymous with scandal and a presidency in flames.
Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Number 4, Charles I of England. Some leaders fall into ignominy. Charles I fell from his throne almost directly into his coffin. As King of England, Charles believed in the divine right of kings.
Charles distrusted parliaments absolutely, and had governed the country for long periods without recourse to one.
He ruled by God's will, he said. The people had no divine right to self-governance through parliament. Toss in some Catholic versus Protestant internecine conflict, and you have all the ingredients to a revolution.
One thing was furthest from his mind, that less than 8 years later, he too would one day stand on trial for his life in that very same place.
His reign sparked a civil war, divided the country, ending with him on trial for treason against England. Unsurprisingly, the king was swiftly found guilty. In 1649, Charles became the first European monarch to be publicly executed.
Charles died bravely on the scaffold, impeccable courage, but that's no more than would be expected from any gentleman facing the block.
His royal head rolled and the monarchy itself was abolished. For a few short years, England tried its hand at being a republic. Number 3, Aung San Puyi, China's last emperor. He was born into royalty, elevated to Emperor of China at just 2 years old.
But dramatic events sweeping China are about to change little Puyi's life forever.
By the time he died, Puyi was just a gardener in a Beijing courtyard. The last emperor of China, he ruled the Qing dynasty in name only. By the time he was 6, the Xinhai Revolution was in full force, ending the monarchy through his forced abdication. But his story just gets worse and worse. In 1932, he allied himself with the Japanese, becoming their puppet ruler in Manchuria.
Puyi's investiture is held at a government office. Though it's a far cry from the splendor of the Forbidden City, the grandiose ceremony makes Puyi more comfortable with his decision to side with the Japanese.
After World War II, he was captured by the Soviets, repatriated to China, and re-educated by the Communist Party. Once the son of heaven, he spent his final years psychologically broken, a symbol of the humility instilled by the communist regime.
I was the #1 prisoner of my palaces. Today, I enjoy real freedom and equality. I can go anywhere. Something I never dreamt possible in the first 50 years of my life.
Number 2, Crassus. He was the richest man in Rome, but all his money couldn't buy him glory. Crassus, a key player in the first triumvirate alongside Caesar and Pompey, wanted a legacy to match his fortune. He set his sights on the Parthian Empire, believing it would be easy to conquer. It wasn't. He led his army across the desert, hoping to plunder Parthia's cities. Instead, he found 10,000 Parthian cavalry troops waiting at Carrhae. Exhausted and dehydrated, his legions were annihilated. Crassus tried to negotiate a peace. He was murdered for his efforts in one final humiliation. Thousands of his men fled into the desert and died. Thousands more were enslaved. Crassus's legacy became that of a man whose arrogance cost his men everything. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Napoleon Bonaparte. He crowned himself emperor, reshaped Europe, and wrote his name into history with cannon fire.
Instrumental to Napoleon's success was his skill as a leader. He didn't just inspire people, he made them feel that they were taking part in history.
Napoleon Bonaparte rose from obscure Corsican roots to become one of the most powerful men in the history of the world. But power has a shelf life, especially when poisoned by unchecked ambition.
As he would say in later life, men are only great through the monuments they leave behind.
After years of dominance, Napoleon's luck ran out thanks to a brutal Russian winter. His disastrous campaign was followed by complete defeat at Leipzig. He was exiled to Elba. From there, he eventually orchestrated an escape and another bite at the dictatorial apple. Then came Waterloo, where his final attempt to reclaim glory was crushed for good. Sent to the island of St. Helena, he died mostly alone, far from the empire he once ruled.
His strategic vision, timing, and his consummate grasp of every one of the variables which influenced the behavior of a vast army have made him a legendary figure.
History is replete with arrogant fools who fell from their lofty perches into permanent ignominy. Did any fall off our list? Let us know in the comments.
Pétain had saved France once on a First World War battlefield. But when his countrymen turned to him to save them again, as head of government during World War II, he failed spectacularly.